The first story of the day was sent in by a young woman from a province in the Mekong Delta. She shared a strange event that happened in her own family, involving her biological older sister, whom she calls Chi too. This incident began many years ago. She said that back then, her family had 6 members. Her parents, sister second, sister third, sister fourth, and herself, the youngest daughter. However, since sister second and sister third had passed away when they were still little, only 4 of them remained in the family. Her sister fourth, Bella, had always been an outstanding student from a young age. She consistently earned top academic honors every year, and even won numerous awards in academic competitions at the district, provincial, and city levels. Not only was she intelligent, but she was also physically healthy. However, everything began to change a year she was about to enter the 10th grade. Bella suddenly fell ill in a very strange way. She started suffering from intense headaches and frequent insomnia. Most alarmingly, her left leg began to ache severely, making it extremely difficult for her to walk. She was always limping. Her family couldn't understand what illness she might have. Neighbors speculated that maybe Bella had been studying too hard and was under a lot of mental stress, which might have affected her health. Concerned, her parents took Bella to 3 major hospitals. But what was strange was that at every hospital, after thorough examinations, the doctors all said she was completely healthy, no sign of any illness whatsoever. Her mother confronted the doctors, asking how her daughter could be healthy when she was clearly suffering from headaches, sleeplessness, and severe leg pain. Even after requesting a reevaluation, the doctors insisted that her sister was in perfect health. In the end, just to ease the symptoms, they prescribed her some brain supplements and sleeping pills. After that, Bella was brought back home and began taking the medication as prescribed. When Bella started taking the pills, she did manage to sleep. But her sleep was extremely strange. She slept so deeply that no one could wake her, not by shaking, turning her over, or even slapping her face. She would only wake up on her own. Another odd thing was that while sleeping, she would always clench both her thumbs tightly, so tightly that even her father and Storyteller together couldn't pry them open, no matter how hard they tried. This kept happening. When she took the medicine, she could sleep. But one night, while the whole family was fast asleep, they were suddenly jolted awake by the sound of Bella screaming and crying hysterically. Her parents and she herself rushed into Bella's room and were horrified to see her curled up in a corner of the bed, screaming and crying uncontrollably. Bella's eyes were fixed on the window, her face filled with sheer terror. Her father quickly ran over and asked what was going on. Bella didn't say a word. She just trembled and pointed toward the window. Everyone followed her gaze but saw nothing unusual. Her father tried to calm her. "Sweetheart, there's nothing out there. Please stop crying. Calm down. We're here. Mom and Dad are here with you." After a while, Bella gradually calmed down, though she was still sobbing. Through her hiccups, she said, "Mom, Dad, there's an old man out there. He looked terrifying. His face was mean and scary. He said he was going to take me away. I'm scared. I don't want to be taken away." Bella kept crying and recounting what she saw, even though there was clearly no one outside the window. Hearing their daughter say that, her parents could only comfort and soothe Bella. After a while, she stopped crying. The next morning, her mother called her grandmother and told her the whole story. After listening, her grandmother advised, "You should go see a spiritual healer, just to be safe." Until that point, her parents hadn't believed in anything spiritual or supernatural. They had always thought Bella's illness was purely physical, never once considering any other explanation.
But following the grandmother's advice, they went to see a spiritual master who lived about 5 or 6 kilometers away. After hearing about Bella's condition, the spiritual healer said that she was being haunted by the spirit of an old man, an elderly male ghost. He claimed that this spirit had been attached to the land where their house stood for a very long time. He also said that there were a few other spirits following her, but they were ancestors or family spirits, there to protect her, not harm her. The only one causing trouble was the spirit of the old man. Her parents, now deeply worried, asked what they should do. The healer gave them a specific prayer ritual and instructed them to prepare an offering tray, pray sincerely, and ask the spirit not to follow their daughter anymore. They hurried home and did exactly as he instructed. And indeed, after the offering ceremony, Bella stopped seeing the old man for an entire week. The whole family thought the problem had been resolved. However, exactly 1 week later, while the whole family was eating dinner, Bella suddenly put down her chopsticks and stared out the window. Her mother asked what was wrong, and Bella replied, "Mom, that old man. He's standing outside the window. He's waving at me." Even though it was broad daylight, when everyone looked out the window, they saw no one. On another occasion, while she was out in the yard, she pointed to a corner of the property and said the old man was standing there, beckoning her. But just like every other time, no one else could see a thing. From that point on, Bella kept seeing the old man. Her health continued to deteriorate. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and the pain in her leg only grew worse. Within just 2 weeks, she dropped from a healthy young girl who was 1.63 meters tall and weighed 54 kilograms, to just 43 kilograms. She had lost 11 kilograms. Terrified and desperate, her parents once again turned to her grandmother for help. The grandmother asked around everywhere, searching for different spiritual healers. Over the next month and a half, they took Bella to see 7 different shamans, some from the south, some from central Vietnam. But all of them shook their heads and refused to treat her. Bella's condition kept getting worse. She lay motionless in bed, like an old woman on her deathbed, constantly whispering the names of her family members. Her parents were completely helpless. The hospitals had declared her healthy, and the spiritual healers had refused to intervene. They had no idea what else they could do. Then one evening, around 6 or 7 p.m., Bella suddenly began screaming and crying out violently. Her parents rushed in, only to find her writhing and thrashing on the ground, clutching her left leg tightly. She sobbed and begged, "Mom, Dad, it hurts so much, I can't take it anymore. Please, cut off my leg. Chop it off. I'm begging you." Seeing this, her mother could do nothing but hold her daughter and cry, completely powerless to help. And then, that very same night, the storyteller, the younger sister, named Jessie, experienced something bizarre herself. While she was fast asleep in her room, she suddenly heard a voice whispering right into her ear. It was the voice of Sepa, her great-aunt, who had passed away 3 years prior. "Jessie! Jessie! Open the door for me, Jessie! I'm cold out here. Open the door, please." Upon hearing the voice, Jessie immediately recognized it as Sepa's. Stunned and terrified, she sat bolt upright. Instinctively, she turned to look toward the window, as the knocking sound seemed to be coming from there too. And then, Jessie saw a horrifying sight that sent her into absolute panic. Jessie explained that her house had been built on a very high foundation, over 3 meters tall, to prevent flooding. Because of that, the windows in her room were also positioned very high up. For any normal person to look into her window from outside, they'd need to climb a ladder. But at that moment, she saw an old man standing outside. He was so tall that his head was higher than the window itself. Even more disturbing, she clearly saw that he was missing his left leg. Because of his height, he had to lean down to press his face against the window pane while knocking on the glass to call for her. And when she saw his face, she nearly fainted on the spot. His face was as large as a serving tray, his eyes pitch black and sunken. His mouth looked somewhat normal, but his two canine teeth were monstrously long, so long that they curled inward and reached all the way down to his collarbones. The image of that massive, grotesque face pressed against her window, tapping on the glass in the middle of the night, left her absolutely terrified. Fortunately, ever since she was a child, the storyteller had been brought to temples by her grandmother and had learned to chant Buddhist prayers and recite sutras. In that terrifying moment, she quickly shut her eyes tight, not daring to look any longer, and began to sincerely chant, Namo Amida Buddha. Then, she continued with the great compassion mantra. But the situation only grew more horrifying. Jessie suddenly felt a heavy hand pressing down on her shoulder. Then, a chilling voice whispered right behind her. "What are you chanting? I really like this one. Keep going. Say it faster." She was utterly terrified, realizing that the old man had somehow entered her room and was now sitting right behind her. Still, Jessie didn't faint. She forced herself to stay calm and continued to chant Namo Amida Buddha and Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. She kept reciting for what felt like a very long time. And eventually, the voice disappeared, and the heavy pressure on her shoulder lifted. At that point, she slowly opened her eyes, but her lips continued to whisper the prayer. She glanced toward the window, then behind her, and saw no one. The old man was gone. That night, Jessie didn't sleep a wink. She stayed awake until dawn. The next morning, Jessie told her parents everything that had happened. Though they hadn't witnessed it themselves, after everything that had happened to Bella, they were extremely worried. They began whispering to each other, discussing something in hushed tones, making sure she couldn't hear. 2 days later, it was their father's turn to encounter something frightening. Jessie explained that behind their house was a large yard where her father grew vegetables and fruit trees. Every evening after work, he would go out there to tend the garden. That day was no different. Around 6 p.m. While her father was working in the yard, he suddenly heard a man's voice speak, despite seeing no one around. "Hey you! You've got a really pretty daughter. Give her to me. I've got a son who really likes your girl. He wants to marry her. You'd better let her marry my son. A few days from now, on her birthdate, I'll come and take her to be my son's wife. Remember, the 24th day of the 3rd lunar month." Jessie said it was around the 18th or 19th of the lunar month at the time, just a few days away from the 24th. Hearing those words, her father was shocked. He looked around in a panic, but there wasn't a soul in sight. Horrified, he dropped all his tools, ran straight into the house, and shouted to his wife. "Honey! Quick! Pack up our daughter's things and take her to your mother's house. Right now." Jessie's father told her mother everything that had happened. She was terrified, too, but still hesitant. She said their daughter was too weak at the moment. If they brought her to the grandmother's house, she wasn't sure if the elderly woman could take proper care of her. Besides, since she had never seen anything with her own eyes, there was still a part of her that doubted it all. She said, "Let's just keep her here for now, so I can take better care of her." That night, after soothing Bella to sleep, even though she could only sleep 1 or 2 hours per night, her mother returned to her own room. Sometime after midnight, she woke up needing to use the restroom. Their restroom was built separately, located behind the house, and to reach it she had to walk across the yard, which had a clothesline. After finishing, just as she stepped outside, she suddenly heard a loud voice. "Hey! You there!" Startled, she stopped and looked around, but there wasn't a soul in sight. Thinking she must have misheard it because she was still half asleep, she turned to head back into the house. But just then, she heard the distinct metallic clink sound of aluminum hangers knocking into each other. She looked up at the clothesline and was horrified to see the hangers swaying back and forth, on their own, even though the night was completely windless. Before she could fully process it, she witnessed something even more terrifying. The clothes hanging on the line suddenly began tearing apart on their own, ripped to shreds, left hanging in tatters. Then, from within those shredded clothes, a head slowly emerged. Jessie's mother later recounted, it was the same face her daughter had seen, a face as large as a serving tray, with pitch black, sunken eyes, and two long fangs curling all the way down to the collarbones. Frozen in fear, she stood there completely paralyzed. Then, the floating head let out a sinister, echoing laugh before speaking. "Hey, woman! Where's your daughter? Do you know my son is sleeping with her right now? She's in pain, can't you see that?" And with that, the head vanished. As soon as it disappeared, she snapped out of her trance and instantly thought of Bella. She screamed for her husband and daughter as she ran back into the house. But when she burst into Bella's room, another horrifying scene unfolded before her eyes. Bella was lying on the bed, her own hands wrapped tightly around her neck, strangling herself. Her eyes had rolled back, and her face had turned purple from the lack of oxygen. The mother screamed in panic, so loud that even their grandmother's family living next door heard it and rushed over. Everyone crowded into the room, trying to pry her hands away from her throat, but it was no use. Her hands were locked in place, stiff and ice-cold, choking herself with all her strength. The father, Jessie herself, her mother, her grandmother, and her uncle all rushed over and tried to pry Bella's hands off her neck, but they couldn't. Her hands were stiff, locked tightly around her own throat. In that moment of chaos, Jessie's grandmother suddenly shouted for her father to take off his pajama pants and hit her sister on the head with them. Without hesitation, he did as told. And strangely enough, the moment the pants touched her sister's head, she immediately let go. She regained consciousness but was dazed and exhausted, with no memory of what had just happened. That night, no one in the family dared to sleep. Everyone stayed up, taking turns to watch over her, afraid the incident might happen again. The next morning, they decided to bring her to their maternal grandmother's house. And luckily, at that exact time, her grandmother's close friend introduced them to a highly respected spiritual master in Tainan. Without delay, the whole family hired a car and took Bella to Tainan. When they arrived, they found the master's house to be very modest, just a simple thatched home, but inside stood a large, solemn ancestral altar. Before they could even explain the situation, the master came to the doorway and said something that stunned everyone. "Oh? Why didn't you wait a few more days and just buy her a coffin? Why bring her to me now?" He meant they had come too late. The spirit had already planned to take her on March 24th of lunar month. Then he invited them to help her inside. He asked no further questions, simply told her parents to light incense at the altar. They did as he instructed. Jessie said the master was nearly 70 years old, tall and burly. After her parents lit the incense and placed the sticks in the censer, he walked over and stared at the incense for a long time. Then he turned and said, "This girl is being followed by 4 spirits. All 4 of them belong to the same family, a father and his 3 sons. The father is extremely aggressive. He wants to take this girl as a wife for his eldest son." Without anyone telling him anything, the master had already seen it all. He continued, "All right, I'll call him in and ask what he wants." He called for his own son, a young man around 30, who appeared kind and gentle. When the son arrived from the back of the house, the master told him to kneel, then began to chant and pray. Moments later, the young man suddenly shuddered. He glared at her sister, then turned to glare at her father, mother, and grandmother with a terrifying expression. Gritting his teeth, he growled, "Why did you bring her here? Are you going to take her back or not? If not, do you want me to break her neck right here?" Alarmed, the master interjected, "Hey! Calm down. Why are you doing this? She's just a young girl." The spirit responded, "I don't care. I have 3 sons, and all of them are old enough to marry. My eldest really likes this girl, so I must take her to be his wife." As soon as he said that, the possessed young man lunged straight at her sister and tried to strangle her. Everyone panicked and rushed to stop him. The master quickly grabbed a cup of water from the altar and splashed it into the young man's face. Immediately, the spirit left his body. The master explained that this spirit was extremely aggressive, and he would need to personally visit their home to perform a full ritual. He took down a stack of talisman papers from the altar, drew symbols on them, and instructed the family to paste them on all the doors and windows, front, back, and sides. He also prepared a protective amulet necklace for Bella to wear. Then he said he would come to their house the next evening and asked them to prepare an offering tray with sweets, fruits, and a bowl of black dog's blood. They followed his instructions exactly. After giving him their home address, they returned. That night, Bella finally slept peacefully, no more screaming, no more struggle. The next day, her father bought a bowl of black dog's blood. That evening, the master arrived. By then, both sides of the family, maternal and paternal, had gathered in full. He set up an altar table in the backyard. At the far end of the yard stood a massive old tree that had been there for generations. That tree had been there long before your friend's family bought the land and built their house. Since it was way in the back, no one ever touched it. The shaman set up an altar right beneath that tree. Before starting the ritual, he warned everyone to Bella's hands and feet, or at least have people hold her tightly in case she started struggling. The father, Jesse, her uncle, and 2 other male relatives sat right beside Bella to hold her down without using ropes. Then, the shaman began lighting incense and performing the ritual. At that very moment, a gust of wind blew in out of nowhere. The shaman's son, the same one who had served as a medium the day before, once again knelt down. The shaman chanted continuously and placed an incense stick on top of his son's head. Jessie said she witnessed something incredibly strange. The more the shaman chanted, the faster the incense stick spun atop his son's head. After a while, the son began trembling violently, then suddenly threw his head back and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Immediately after, the old man's spirit possessed him. The voice growled, "Why are you calling me here? I don't want to come." The shaman replied firmly, "I summoned you so you could tell us what you want. Just speak." The spirit answered, "I don't want anything. I don't want your offerings. I only want that girl." He pointed straight at your friend's sister. "I want to take her as a wife for my son. My son likes her. I'm telling you now, I won't accept your offerings. And if you defy me, I'll kill your entire family." Then he turned to the shaman, voice filled with menace, "And you, I'll make you cough up blood right here, you believe me?" But the shaman remained eerily calm. He said, "Come on, old man. You're way too old to still be this aggressive." The spirit snapped back, "I'm over 100 years old, I've become a demon now. You can't do anything to me. I used to herd cows. One rainy day, I took shelter under this very tree, and I got struck by lightning. The lightning blew off my left leg." Hearing this detail, Jesse was chilled to the bone. It matched exactly what they had seen that night, an old man missing his left leg. The spirit continued, "I already said, I won't take your offerings. I won't eat your food. I just want to take this girl." Seeing how aggressive the spirit was, the shaman countered, "You'd better stop now. She's just a child. Her ancestors won't let you take her so easily." "No. I won't let go. I'll take her no matter what. She's going to marry my son." As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit left the shaman's son's body, only to immediately enter Bella's body. From a frail, near-death state, she suddenly became incredibly strong and lunged at the shaman, trying to strangle him. Everyone rushed in to pull her off. The shaman signaled to Jesse's mother to lift the back of her shirt. Then, he pulled a golden-handled tie knife from his pouch, wrapped in a talisman. He used the knife to slash several long cuts across her back. She screamed in agony with each cut. The shaman shouted, "Hold her down. Hold her tight," and kept slashing. Then something strange happened. Instead of normal red blood, a thick, pitch-black liquid oozed out from the wounds. Then, the shaman took out a red talisman and pressed it against her back. The moment it touched her skin, there was a sharp sizzling sound, szzz, and she let out an even more harrowing scream. But it wasn't over yet. The shaman then grabbed a bowl of black dog's blood and splashed it directly onto her body. Her entire body convulsed violently. Finally, he took out a small ceramic jar, placed it over her mouth. She trembled again, and then suddenly passed out. The shaman sealed the jar, tucked it into his bag, and said, "It's done. Now take her to rest inside. She'll be fine from now on." He then left, refusing to take any payment, only asking for just enough money for him and his son to take the bus back to Tainan. And indeed, just 1 or 2 months later, Bella gradually recovered. She could eat and sleep, her skin regained its color, and she returned to school and began 10th grade as normal. The whole family thought everything was finally over. But around 5 months later, strange things began happening again. Bella grew pale, gaunt, and started losing sleep. One night, while lying awake in bed, she suddenly heard the sound of high heels clicking against the floor outside her room. Bella opened her eyes and saw the door slowly creaking open. At first, she thought it was her mother, who often came in to check if the kids had covered themselves with blankets. But when she looked more closely, she was horrified to realize it wasn't her mother at all. It was a woman dressed entirely in white, her hair disheveled, her face ghostly pale. The woman walked slowly toward her bed, leaned in, and asked a question that made her blood run cold. "Oh? You can see me?" Terrified, Bella leapt out of bed and ran straight to her parents' room, frantically recounting everything she had just seen. The very next day, strange occurrences continued. While lying on her bed, she heard a faint tapping sound, clack, clack, and when she looked up at the top of the wardrobe, she froze in terror. Sitting up there was another figure, this time dressed completely in red, with the same pale face, staring down at her. The figure spoke, "Hey. I'm here to take you. That girl, she sent me to come and take you away." Horrified once again, Bella ran crying into her parents' room and told them everything. Seeing how things were escalating, and noticing her health was once again deteriorating, growing thinner, paler, her parents decided to return to Tainan to find the shaman. This time, the shaman told them that their daughter was being targeted. Someone in the neighborhood had been envious of the family's success and had gone to a sorcerer to cast black magic, sending malevolent spirits to torment them. And because their daughter was the most spiritually vulnerable, she had become the main target. The shaman gave clear instructions: when you get home, dig right beneath the window of the girl's room. There you'll find a voodoo doll. At exactly 6 p.m., take it and burn it. Meanwhile, I will perform a ritual from here to break the spell. Jesse's parents rushed home and followed the instructions to the letter. And sure enough, when they dug beneath the window, they found a doll, a human effigy, with nails driven into its head and chest. At exactly 6 p.m. that evening, they burned the doll. And from that day on, Bella fully recovered and never experienced anything strange again. Since then, Jesse's older sister had lived a completely normal life. She finished high school, then went on to graduate from university. She continued to excel in her studies and became fluent in 4 languages: English, French, Chinese, and Korean. Everyone thought that the storm had truly passed. However, after she graduated and had been working for a few years, by then, both her grandmother and grandfather had passed away due to old age. Strange occurrences began to resurface. One night, Jesse's father had a dream in which his mother appeared and warned him. "My son, you have to protect Bella carefully. Something is coming again. He's too strong, mother can't hold him off anymore." Almost at the same time, her sister began to dream of the old man from years ago. But this time, he wasn't alone, he brought along a young man, about her age. In the dream, they said they had come to take her away. Every time Bella closed her eyes to sleep, she saw that same dream. The family was deeply worried, but the spiritual master in Tainan had already passed away, and they didn't know who to turn to. Once again, her grandmother came in a dream and advised Jesse's father to take his daughter to stay at a temple for a while. The family followed her advice. her sister stayed at the temple for 4 months. During that time, she no longer had those strange dreams, and her sleep became peaceful. Seeing that things had stabilized, she asked for permission to return home and resumed her job. By then, Bella's relationship with her boyfriend had grown deeper. He was someone who loved her dearly and believed in spiritual matters, so he fully understood and trusted everything she had gone through. However, after returning home, Bella once again began to show signs of drifting into a daze. She said that in her dreams, she saw herself as a bride in a wedding surrounded by an eerie sea of red. Worried sick, the family rushed to the temple to pray. Jessie's mother sincerely pleaded for her daughter's safety, promising to do charitable deeds to transfer merit. Her boyfriend made a vow that if she came through safely and they could be together, he would eat vegetarian for an entire year. And once again, Bella recovered. Overjoyed, both sides of the family bought 4 tons of rice to donate as charity, fulfilling their vow. They also began choosing auspicious dates to prepare for the wedding. The engagement ceremony was set for a near date, and the wedding was planned for May. But tragedy struck in March. Jessie recalled that about a week before it happened, her older sister had repeatedly reminded her about all sorts of things around the house. When Jessie asked why, her sister simply smiled and said that since she was getting married soon, she wanted her younger sister to help take care of their parents. At the time, she didn't think much of it. Then, on the night of the March 23rd of lunar month, at 8 p.m., her mother received a phone call. The person on the other end said that her daughter had been in an accident and had died on the spot. After hearing that, her mother could only turn to her father and utter one sentence before fainting. Her father and Jessie rushed to the scene and, devastated, brought her sister's body home. On the 3rd day of the funeral, just before the burial, one of her cousins, who was sitting nearby, suddenly burst into loud sobs and called out, "Mom! It's me!" Everyone was stunned. It was the spirit of Bella who had possessed her cousin. Her parents wept and asked why this had happened. Through tears, her sister's spirit recounted, "Mom, Dad, it was that old man. He was sitting behind me on the motorbike. Then he covered my eyes with his hands. I couldn't see the road, so I crashed into 2 electric poles." Hearing their daughter's spirit recount what had happened, the family was stunned to realize it was the same strange old man from years ago. He had never let her go. Then, Bella's spirit turned to her boyfriend and, in a voice full of sorrow, said, "My love, our fate together has ended. I'm leaving now. One day, please find someone else who will love and care for you as I did. Don't be sad, okay?" After saying a few more parting words, her spirit departed. The family was overwhelmed with grief upon learning the truth. They realized that the ghostly old man had fulfilled his threat. He had come to take her away on the exact date, the March 23rd of lunar month. Tragically, Bella's birthday was on the March 24th of that very same month, and that also became the date of her funeral rites. According to the storyteller, after Bella's death, her sister's spirit remained very spiritually present. She would often appear in dreams to her parents, warning them of things to come so they could prepare. On one occasion, she even gave them lucky numbers, and her father bought lottery tickets. He won 3 special prizes and 2 first prizes. That is the full story submitted by a girl from the Mekong Delta. It's undeniably a long and deeply haunting tale. The narrator shared that it took them a great deal of time, and many retellings, to finally recount the story as it is now. It truly is a terrifying story. Perhaps, it was all fate for the sister. We can only hope that her family continues doing good deeds, dedicating their merit to her soul, so that she may one day find peace and transcend this world.